Hello. Today we're going to talk a little bit about professional correspondence. Most specifically in this module, we're talking about sending professional emails. And this is something that's really going to be pertinent to you not only in your time here at Mountain Empire, but also in the workforce, because we are expected to be professional, courteous, and formal within our emails. So for this class, you will be writing a formal email. And also, you'll see this noted in our syllabus, in our communication guidelines and expectations. You are expected to use this format when emailing me. So make sure to pay close attention to the items that we discussed today so that you can utilize them not only in emailing me, but also in your coworkers or others here, even at Mountain Empire. So firstly, professional emails rely on good structure. So the structure is outlined in your course reading for this week, which I have pulled up on the screen. So on the left here, you will see a sample good formal email. You'll notice it is not long. So by formal email, we don't mean it has 5 paragraphs or anything like that. Essentially, we're saying that it has a structure, it's polite, well written, etc. So the first part of a formal email is the greeting. So the greeting can include that person's name. Make sure if you're emailing an instructor that you do use the appropriate title, be that Mr., Miss, Doctor, etc. You could also, instead of using that person's name, use something like good morning, good afternoon, etc. So the greeting, which could either be, like I said, hello, or that person's name should be followed by a comma. And then you'll want to hit enter to space down to the next line. A big thing with a formal email is that you don't want it to just be one chunk or block of text. Instead, there should be separation between each item. So the next part that you see is the body of the email. So in the body of the email, you want to briefly provide context for that email. So tell a little bit about who you are. You don't have to give background or anything, about your upbringing, where you live, etc. But what we mean by context is saying something like, I'm in your class that meets on Mondays and Wednesdays at 11:30, or I'm one of your advisees, or I am in the business program, etc. So just a little sentence to clarify who you are so that someone has a context for the content of the email. In addition, you want to make your need clear. So if you have a question, make sure you ask that question clearly. If you need a document sent back to you, make sure to make that clear. So you'll notice here, someone has said, I was reading over the most recent assignment and wanted to check myself on the length. So they're checking, does a page and a half count as 2 full pages? So they've asked a clear question and provided context by saying they have read over the assignment, etc. So you'll notice again that was brief. The body of an email should not be terribly long. The kind of informal saying is that if you have to scroll on a computer screen to read it, it's a bit too long. So you do want it to be fairly brief. The next section, so you'll space down after the body. The body could be 2 paragraphs. Here it's 1, but it could be 2 short ones. The next section after the body is your closing. So here the person had said, thank you so much for your time with an exclamation point. You could have said, thank you, sincerely. Make sure that your closing, though, does match the audience. So you would not want to say something like love or something like that in a formal professional email. After that, you will enter down and provide your signature. So your signature should consist of your name and any other pertinent information. So you can put your first and last name there. Sometimes the email will glitch and just show student email. So instead of your name when you send it. So even though sometimes or most of the time your name does show up when you automatically send an email, you still want to put your name at the bottom just in case there was a glitch or something. It just clarifies it. You can put your email address or student ID on there as well. Now you will also, that's the full example of a formal email. So when I ask you to do the email assignment for this week, read over the parameters and content, but essentially something of this length, structure is what I'm looking for. So some other things to remember, check your spelling and grammar. So make sure you treat emails formally. So you do want to make sure you have properly capitalized. You do want to make sure that you have correct punctuation. So if you do say later in this semester, email me about an assignment, you don't want to in all lowercase say, hey, when is this due, question mark. Instead, you would say something like Dr. Arnold, comma, then enter down, then ask me the question, provide a closing, and then a signature. Within that too, you would check spelling, punctuation. Make sure to use formal language. In emails, you can use contractions, you can use first and second person, but you don't want to use slang. You don't want to say gonna. You don't want to use 3 or 4 exclamation points. Instead, you want to rely on something like going to rather than gonna. Make sure to be polite also. Don't use exclamation points or all caps. That's kind of yelling, so you want to avoid that. We want to maintain a professional and kind tone. Please remember with emails, they have an incredibly long shelf life. So most people save emails. So if you have something with a less than courteous tone, that's something that person could pull up a year or 2 later and look at. So you want to make sure just to present your best self, since it is something that's going to last. Include pertinent contextual information also. So make sure when you're emailing an instructor to include the class that you're in. If you're emailing someone at the college, make sure to use your school email address because of FERPA, so it's privacy. So again, if you email me from a Yahoo or Gmail email address not associated with the school and asked for your grade, I would not be able to provide that. Same thing with your advisor, financial aid, always use your college email address. And lastly, do not ever send blank emails that only contain an attachment. You do want to put something in the body of the email. So you could say, good morning, then comma, enter down, I have attached the information change form to this email. And then you can include your closing and signature. You always want to, if you have an attachment, kind of explain that attachment within the body of the email. So for this module, again, you will be writing a formal email. Make sure to remember all of these guidelines as you write that email. And most importantly, remember these guidelines as you send emails throughout this semester and in your professional career. If you have any questions about this, please do not hesitate to let me know, and I would be happy to help.